What happens when America's sweetheart faces off against morning television's toughest interviewer, and the conversation takes an unexpected turn that leaves everyone stunned? The Today Show studio turned into a battlefield when Carrie Underwood sat down with Hoda Kotb for what was supposed to be a light promotional interview. Instead, it became one of the most unforgettable moments in morning TV history. The day began like any other at Rockefeller Plaza. Carrie arrived early, her calm professionalism in full display as she prepared to discuss her upcoming tour. It was routine, she'd done this countless times before. Hoda, beloved for her warmth and effortless charm, was set to host the segment. But from the moment Carrie walked into the studio, something felt off. The usual friendly small talk was replaced by an uneasy silence neither woman addressed. As the cameras rolled and the crew counted down, millions of viewers tuned in. "Good morning, everyone. I'm here with the incredible Carrie Underwood," Hoda began, smiling brightly. "Carrie, thank you so much for being here today." "Thanks for having me, Hoda," Carrie replied politely, though her smile seemed tighter than usual. "Always a pleasure to be on the Today Show." Hoda continued, "You've got this amazing tour coming up, and I know your fans are so excited. But I want to start with something that's been making headlines lately. There have been reports about changes in your personal life, some speculation about your marriage. How do you handle that kind of scrutiny?" Carrie's posture stiffened. "Well, Hoda, that's getting into territory I prefer to keep private. I'm here to talk about my music and my tour, not tabloid gossip." "Of course," Hoda nodded, though her tone hinted she wasn't done. "But as a public figure, don't you think your fans deserve a little transparency? They invest emotionally in your story, they buy your albums, they come to your shows because they connect to you as a person." "I absolutely appreciate my fans," Carrie replied, her voice sharper now. "But there's a difference between sharing my art with them and having every part of my personal life dissected for entertainment." Hoda leaned forward. "But Carrie, you've built your image on being relatable, singing about real love, real heartbreak. When you sing about revenge or moving on from betrayal, people assume it's personal. Are you saying those songs aren't based on your own life?" "I'm saying my songs tell stories," Carrie said, her jaw tightening. "Sometimes they're mine, sometimes they're inspired by others, and sometimes they're fiction. That's what songwriters do, we create art." Hoda didn't let up. "But when you won American Idol, you were that small-town girl from Oklahoma with wholesome values. Your image is built on authenticity, so when there are questions about whether that authenticity extends to your personal life, isn't that fair for discussion?" The tension was thick enough to cut. Carrie shifted in her seat, trying to maintain composure. "You're confusing authenticity with having no boundaries, Hoda. I can be genuine with my fans without exposing every part of my private life." Hoda pressed on. "But just last month you posted about honesty and transparency in relationships, about how lies destroy trust. Were you speaking generally or from personal experience?" Carrie's eyes flashed. "Are you seriously psychoanalyzing my Instagram posts right now?" "I'm asking questions your fans want answers to," Hoda shot back. "We had dozens of messages this morning asking about those posts. People want to know if their role model practices what she preaches." The air between them crackled with tension as the cameras kept rolling, a calm morning segment that had suddenly turned into live television drama. Carrie Underwood's composure began to crack as her voice rose slightly. "My role model status doesn't give anyone the right to pry into my marriage," she said sharply, eyes flashing with disbelief. "And frankly, I'm surprised you'd ambush me like this when your producers told my team this interview would focus on the tour." "Nobody's ambushing anyone," Hoda replied coolly, her tone steady but laced with authority. "These are questions any entertainment journalist would ask. If you can't handle basic questions about your public persona, maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Carrie stared at Hoda for a long, tense moment, her expression unreadable. Viewers at home could almost see the heat between them, the invisible tension building second by second. Every twitch, every tightening of Carrie's jaw was captured by the cameras. It was clear the interview was about to spiral out of control. "Excuse me?" Carrie's voice cut through the studio air like a blade. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees as America's sweetheart transformed before millions of viewers' eyes. "Did you just suggest that I can't handle basic questions?" Hoda blinked, realizing she might have gone too far, but her instincts as a journalist overrode her caution. I'm simply saying that public figures need to expect public scrutiny, she replied evenly. It comes with the territory. Public scrutiny is one thing, Carrie fired back, leaning forward in her chair, her tone sharp and controlled. But deliberately misleading me about the nature of this interview is something else entirely. You and your producers told my team this would be about my tour, my music, my upcoming projects. Instead, you're sitting here trying to dissect my marriage like it's some kind of soap opera. Carrie, I understand you're upset. No, you don't understand, Carrie interrupted, her voice gaining strength with every word. You don't understand what it's like to have every single part of your life picked apart by strangers. You don't know what it feels like to have people make assumptions about your relationships based on song lyrics or social media posts. Hoda's expression hardened. Actually, Carrie, I do understand. I've been in this business for over 20 years. I've had my own personal life scrutinized, my own relationships questioned. The difference is I don't make millions of dollars singing about those experiences and then act surprised when people want to know more. The studio crew exchanged uneasy glances. This was live television, and both women seemed to have forgotten that millions were watching as their polished professionalism began to crumble in real time. So, you think making money from my art gives you the right to ambush me? Carrie asked, her voice low and trembling with anger. You think success means I surrender my right to privacy? I think authenticity means being consistent, Hoda countered. You can't build a career on being the girl next door, on singing about real emotions and real experiences, and then shut down the moment someone asks you about those real experiences. My music speaks for itself, Carrie said through gritted teeth. I don't owe you or anyone else a detailed breakdown of my personal life. But you do owe your fans honesty, Hoda pressed on, refusing to back down. These people have supported you for nearly 2 decades. They've bought your albums, filled your concerts, defended you online. When they have genuine questions about whether the person they've supported is who she claims to be, don't they deserve answers? Carrie abruptly stood up, her microphone jerking as the cord went taut. Are you questioning my integrity? She demanded. I'm questioning your consistency, Hoda replied, still seated, her calm demeanor unwavering. You've built a fortune selling authenticity, but the moment someone asks you to actually be authentic, you hide behind privacy concerns. Privacy concerns? Carrie repeated, her voice breaking with disbelief. Wanting to keep my marriage out of the tabloids is a privacy concern? Not wanting to address every rumor or piece of gossip is hiding? When those rumors directly contradict the image you've built your career on, yes, Hoda said bluntly. Your fans have a right to know if the woman they look up to is living the values she sings about. The words hit Carrie like a slap. She stood frozen, processing the accusation, the shock visible in her eyes. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely controlled fury. How dare you suggest that I'm not living my values? How dare you sit there and imply I'm some kind of fraud because I won't feed you gossip about my personal life? I'm not calling you a fraud, Hoda said, though her tone made the denial ring hollow. I'm asking you to address the disconnect between your public persona and your private actions. The silence that followed was deafening. The audience could sense it. This wasn't just an uncomfortable interview anymore. It was a clash of ideals, ego, and pride unfolding live on national television. What disconnect? Carrie demanded, her voice trembling with restrained fury. What private actions? You're basing this entire line of questioning on tabloid speculation and gossip. You have no facts, no evidence, and nothing but rumors, and you're treating them like gospel truth. Hoda leaned forward slightly, her tone calm but firm. The facts are that you've been photographed without your wedding ring several times recently. The facts are that your husband hasn't appeared at any of your recent public events. The facts are that you've been seen having what appeared to be heated conversations with your management team. These aren't rumors, Carrie. These are observable realities. Carrie's face flushed crimson. So what? You've been having me followed now? You're analyzing my jewelry choices and tracking my husband's schedule. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This obsessive need to turn every aspect of my life into content for your show. Nobody's following you, Hoda replied coolly, her professionalism unshaken. These observations come from publicly available photos and social media posts. Information that's already out there. Information that's being weaponized against me in this interview. Carrie shot back. You're using paparazzi photos and online gossip to build a case against my character. I'm using available information to ask reasonable questions, Hoda countered. Questions your fans are already asking. My fans trust me, Carrie said firmly, her voice steadying. My real fans understand that there's a difference between my public persona and my private life. They don't need me to justify every decision I make or explain every photograph that gets taken. Well, apparently some of them do, Hoda said pointedly, because they're the ones reaching out to us asking these questions. Carrie let out a bitter laugh. Right, because every viewer call-in automatically qualifies as legitimate journalism. What's next? If someone calls asking about my grocery list, you'll consider that newsworthy too? If your grocery habits contradicted the image you've built your career on, then yes. It might be worth discussing, Hoda replied without hesitation. The comment landed like a slap. Carrie stood motionless for a moment, staring at Hoda with a mixture of disbelief and cold fury. The studio had fallen completely silent except for the faint hum of the cameras capturing every tense second of this career-defining moment. You know what, Hoda? Carrie's voice was deadly calm now, the kind of quiet that comes right before a storm breaks. I think I'm starting to understand what this is really about. Hoda shifted slightly in her chair, unease flickering across her face. What do you mean? This isn't about journalism, Carrie said, her eyes locked on Hoda's. This isn't about serving my fans or asking legitimate questions. This is about ratings, about creating a viral moment, something that gets people talking about the Today Show. That's ridiculous, Hoda protested, though her voice had lost its conviction. I'm doing my job as a journalist. Your job as a journalist? Carrie repeated, her tone dripping with disdain. Is ambushing your guests part of the journalism school curriculum now? Is misleading people about interview topics considered ethical journalism? Nobody misled you, Hoda said quickly, though the defensive edge in her tone betrayed her. Current events and personal life questions are standard in entertainment interviews. Standard? Carrie's voice rose again, sharp and unyielding. There's nothing standard about this hit job you're pulling. You've turned what was supposed to be a promotional interview into an interrogation based entirely on tabloid gossip. I'm asking questions that will generate controversy, Carrie cut in, her words slicing through Hoda's defense. Questions that will get clips shared on social media, that will boost your show's profile at the expense of my reputation. Hoda's face reddened. My show doesn't need to manufacture controversy to be successful. Really? Carrie laughed harshly, her voice echoing across the silent studio. Because that's exactly what you're doing right now. You're trying to create drama where none exists, trying to turn speculation into scandal. I'm trying to get honest answers from someone who's built a career on supposed honesty, Hoda snapped back, her composure finally cracking. The air in the studio was electric. Two women locked in a verbal duel, their professionalism long gone, their true emotions laid bare for millions to witness. Carrie's composure finally snapped. Because I shouldn't have to defend my private life to you or anyone else. She exploded, her voice echoing across the silent studio. The very fact that you think I owe you explanations about my marriage, my relationships, or my personal choices shows exactly what's wrong with this industry. The industry that's made you incredibly wealthy, Hoda countered sharply, refusing to back down. The industry that's given you a platform to influence millions of people. And the same industry, Carrie fired back, that thinks wealth and influence mean I've signed away my right to basic human dignity. The same industry that treats fame like a contract, one that requires me to expose every corner of my life for public consumption. You chose this life, Hoda said coldly. Nobody forced you to become a public figure. I chose to share my music, Carrie replied, her voice trembling with controlled fury. I didn't choose to have my marriage dissected on morning television by someone more interested in creating drama than in practicing journalism. Actual journalism involves asking difficult questions, Hoda insisted, not just softball questions about tour dates and album releases. Difficult questions based on facts, not tabloid speculation, Carrie shot back. What you're doing isn't journalism, it's gossip mongering dressed up as news. The words hung heavy in the air. Hoda's face flickered through a range of emotions, anger, hurt, then defiance. You know what, Carrie? she said bitterly. If you can't handle the heat, maybe you shouldn't be in the kitchen. This is what professional entertainers deal with. This is part of the job. No, Carrie said firmly, reaching up to unclip her microphone. This is what unprofessional journalists think entertainers should deal with. This is what happens when ratings matter more than respect. Where are you going? Hoda demanded as Carrie rose from her chair. We're not finished here. Yes, we are, Carrie replied, pulling the mic pack from her belt. I'm not going to sit here and be ambushed on live television by someone who clearly has an agenda. You're walking out on a live interview? Hoda's disbelief was evident. You're going to storm off because I asked legitimate questions? I'm walking out on an ambush disguised as an interview, Carrie corrected, setting her microphone on the table. I'm walking out on a journalist who thinks misleading guests and manufacturing controversy is acceptable behavior. This is incredibly unprofessional, Hoda called after her as Carrie made her way toward the edge of the set. Your fans are watching this. Carrie turned, eyes blazing. My fans will understand that I refuse to be disrespected on national television. They'll understand that standing up for yourself isn't unprofessional. It's necessary. So you're just going to run away? Hoda pressed, making one last attempt to salvage the exchange. You're going to avoid accountability by walking off? I'm going to maintain my dignity, Carrie replied coolly. Something you've clearly forgotten how to do. With that, she turned and walked off the set, leaving Hoda sitting alone under the harsh studio lights. The cameras kept rolling as Hoda struggled to compose herself, clearly unprepared for her guest's dramatic exit. Finally, she turned to the camera with a strained smile. Well, she said, her voice tight, that's not how we expected this interview to go. We'll be right back after this commercial break. The moment the cameras cut, chaos erupted. Production assistants scrambled to fill the remaining airtime while producers huddled together in frantic discussion, debating how to control the damage. Carrie, however, was already gone. She'd left the building without speaking to anyone from the crew. Within minutes, clips of the confrontation flooded social media, sparking an online firestorm. Viewers were divided. Had Hoda crossed a professional line, or had Carrie overreacted to standard interview questions? The debate raged for days, dissected by fans, pundits, and tabloids alike. But one thing was undeniable. This was a moment that would define both women's careers. What did you think of this explosive exchange? Was Hoda right to push for answers, or did she go too far? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more shocking celebrity moments you won't believe actually happened.